It's impossible to talk about the Krogan without going into detail about the Genophage, so this lore video is going to be a bit of a combo platter that dives into the backstory of the Krogan, as well as the biological weapon designed to stop them. If you're into Mass Effect and want to see more of these types of videos, be sure to give the video a like, and with that, let's dive into it. The Krogan have been around for a long time. Their species' earliest ancestors date back to the time of the Protheans. For more on the Protheans, check out our first Mass Effect lore video. Anyways, the Krogan originate on a planet called Tuchanka. The planet is filled with vicious predators. Ironically, the Krogan probably were not originally one of them, given that they have wide-set eyes that typically denote animals that are prey and need to have a wider field of view to notice predators. But the Krogan evolved to become the dominant species of Tuchanka, likely sped along by their unnaturally fast reproduction rate. Female Krogan would typically produce 1,000 fertilized eggs a year. Additionally, much like Earth's camels, Krogan evolved to have massive humps on their back designed to store water and nutrients, allowing them to go for long periods of time without the need to eat or drink. And on top of all of that, Krogan have secondary and tertiary organs, as well as an accelerated healing factor. For example, Krogan have 2 hearts, so if one is damaged, the other can take over and keep the Krogan alive while the first one begins healing. These extra organs and healing factor make Krogan near unstoppable juggernauts that live for a very long time, like Mass Effect Andromeda's Drac, who is 1,400 years old. The extra organs also informs the Krogan's vocabulary. You may notice that several Krogan throughout the Mass Effect games refer to bravery as someone having quads. That mirrors our earthly expression of saying someone who's courageous has balls. Krogan say quads because they have 4 testicles. Given their nature, Krogan developed a society that values strength and is composed of individual clans, each of which is overseen by an overlord. There's also a spiritual element to Krogan society as well, with each clan possessing a shaman to provide spiritual guidance, and Krogan growing up by performing specific rites of passage. Like the other species we've talked about in these lore videos, the Krogan became the dominant species of their world, conquering Tuchanka and eventually, like most sentient Milky Way species, evolving to the point of achieving industrialization. This briefly led to a period of architectural and artistic advancement. But it was short-lived. As the Krogan had evolved to be an aggressive species in order to survive on Tuchanka, they possessed an innate bloodlust for seeking out challenges. But with industrialization, no other species on Tuchanka could provide that, so they decided to fight each other instead. By 1900 BCE, over 4,000 years prior to the events of Mass Effect 1, the Krogan had developed nuclear weapons, and individual clans entered all-out nuclear war. The conflict pretty much destroys Tuchanka, plunging the planet into a nuclear winter. For 2,000 years, the remaining Krogan clans struggled to survive, continuing to fight one another over the planet's now scarce amount of resources. And that's the state the Solarians found them in 80 CE. Okay, let's pivot really quick. Remember our last Mass Effect lore video, the one about the First Contact War? That conflict can be traced back to the Citadel activating dormant mass relays and accidentally discovering the Rachni, which led to the Rachni Wars in 1 CE. The lore of the Krogan ties back to that story too. In 1 CE, the Citadel Council is solely composed of the Asari and Solarians. The former provides wisdom, while the latter contributes leadership and scientific research. So while both have armies, neither one has the military might to counter the Rachni, a surprisingly intelligent and highly aggressive insect-like species that breeds quickly and originated on a dangerous planet, allowing them to evolve so as to survive harsh environments. The Asari and Solarians come from homeworlds where a warlike mentality was not necessary to become the dominant species, and so they are ill-prepared to stop the Rachni. This is where the Krogan come in. Upon discovering the Krogan, the Solarians notice that they have a surprisingly similar evolutionary history to the Rachni, making them ideally suited for fighting the insect-like invaders. The Solarians decide to step in and help the Krogan, gifting them technology and weapons that the Krogan were centuries away from developing for themselves. One such piece of tech is the Shroud, which stabilizes Tuchanka's atmosphere and allows more of the planet to become livable. The Solarians also help the Krogan expand their population to new planets, ones far less dangerous than Tuchanka, giving the Krogan room to quickly expand their numbers once more. This, of course, was not all done out of kindness. The Solarians hoped to influence the Krogan, transforming them into a near unstoppable army that would side with the Solarians and Asari against the Rachni. And the plan worked. Not only do the Krogan breed fast enough to match numbers with the Rachni, their unique physiology allows them to endure the harsh conditions of the Rachni homeworld. By 300 CE, the Krogan stopped the Rachni's advancement, pushed the insect-like species back to their homeworld, and then eradicate them. As a reward, the Krogan get a monument on the Citadel and a place in the Milky Way government. No seat at the Council, but their ambassador gets a lot of sway, as the Krogan fulfilled the military force the Citadel Council had been lacking. The galaxy views the Krogan as heroes. There's only one problem. In uplifting the Krogan, the Solarians basically put the Krogan in the same spot they were in prior to nuclear war devastating Tuchanka. The Krogan are rapidly expanding and have no challenge to curb their growth. Only now they have the technology to expand to more worlds and find other species to fight instead of fighting each other. Over the next 400 years, the Krogan spread across the Milky Way, forcibly claiming already inhabited worlds. Noting the public's growing concern that the Krogan are becoming a threat similar to the Rachni, the Council begins creating a contingency program, a group of the galaxy's best Solarian Special Task Group operatives and Asari huntresses. This military group would be founded in 693 CE and would be called the Special Tactics and Reconnaissance Branch of the Citadel, or Spectres. In 700 CE, the Krogan finally reach and begin taking over Lucia, an Asari colony. The Council steps in, saying that the Krogan have overstepped the good faith they earned when driving out the Rachni. The Krogan ambassador at the time, Overlord Krodak, just walks out of the Council chambers, daring the Council to try and stop the Krogan. The Council responds by sending in the Spectres, kicking off another war called the Krogan Rebellions. Though the Spectres proved to be devastatingly effective, allowed to use any act of war they deem necessary, the Council runs into the same problem they did with the Rachni. The Krogan breed too quickly. For the hundreds killed, thousands take their place each year. In desperation, the Council turns to another species, the Turians. Unlike the more democratic species of the Milky Way, the Turians had developed into a hierarchy, one heavily defined by military service. The Turians enter the Krogan rebellions and prove to be a substantial threat, prompting the Krogan to respond by bombing Turian colonies with weapons of mass destruction. This infuriates the Turians, who decide the Krogan must be dealt with permanently. 10 years later, however, the Krogan are still winning, so the Turians turn to the Solarians, who had been developing a biological weapon designed to reduce Krogan numbers by infecting the Krogan with a genetic mutation that would lower the probability of viable pregnancies. The Solarians had been designing the weapon, known as the Genophage, as a means of deterrent, peacefully stopping the Krogan from waging war over fear of the Genophage's release. The Turians were still angry over what the Krogan had done to them, however, though the Solarians, and a few subordinate Turians, attempted to stop the Genophage's deployment. The Turian hierarchy went ahead anyway, utilizing the Shroud to spread the Genophage throughout all of Tuchanka. The effects were immediate, mutating the Krogans so that only 1 in 1,000 offspring would survive childbirth. 90 years later, in 800 CE, the Krogan realized that they cannot maintain the numbers to combat both the Spectres and the Turians, and surrender. 100 years after that, in 900 CE, the Turians get a seat on the Citadel Council for their efforts in the Krogan rebellions. The Turians take on the Krogan's previous role of policing Citadel space, which will ultimately lead to the First Contact War. And again, we've got a video about that key moment in Mass Effect history too. Some of the best Turian soldiers, like Saren, also become Spectres. The Krogan, still suffering the effects of the Genophage, begin to lose the drive to survive as a people, believing their species is just going to go extinct anyway. As a result, many Krogan depart Tuchanka and their respective clans and take on solo work as bounty hunters or bodyguards across the galaxy. Though many wish to reverse the effects of the Genophage, the Krogan do not possess scientific knowledge on par with the Solarians. The Genophage just becomes a staple of who the Krogan are, with individual clans disagreeing in how to combat the mutation and whether it's even worth it to try. The one thing that all clans agree to is that fertile female Krogan are to be protected at all costs. Other than that, the species as a whole is really just waiting to completely die out. And that's the way things stay until the events of Mass Effect, about 1200 years later. So when you pick up Mass Effect Legendary Edition, hopefully you now have a better idea as to why there is a statue honoring the Krogan on the Citadel, but why the Krogan as a whole aren't highly regarded by the rest of the Milky Way, and why many Krogan have fatalistic attitudes. The Genophage is one of the many through-line stories of the Mass Effect trilogy, alongside the Rachni War, Geth War, and several other conflicts where details aren't black and white. Were the Turians in the right for deploying the Genophage, and were the Solarians even in the right to even make it in the first place? We'd love to hear what you think in the comments below, and be sure to subscribe for more Mass Effect lore videos like this one.